Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a great sunny day. I'm excited to bring yet another training in here. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into FPDS and in particular looking for women-owned set-asides. It can be used for anybody. Before we get started, though, I like to give tips on as a thank you for those of you who show up early and on time. So we've got like 30 of us who are showing up early. And so my tip for today for you is related to the tools. I'm going to talk about FPDS, right? And I want you to keep in mind, my recommendation for you is to learn and master the tools of your trade. An example is FPDS, which I'm going to dive into today, or SAM, Google, right? I know Excel. I know this sounds a little basic, but these are the tools of our job. FPDS and SAM are where we can find data. Google is where we can search deeper for elusive data, if you will. Excel is where we can manipulate data so we can use it easier and make decisions. And so you want to learn those tools. Take the time to take whatever free training you can get. You got people like me who drop out tips, but FPDS or SAM, they have onboard training as well. But wherever you can, you want to become an expert, better than 80% of the people out there on using SAM or FPDS or et cetera. So then you find the best information. So that's my tip for you. By the way, the one I'm learning, just so you know, I'm constantly learning myself, is Chat GPT, right? It's with all these AI things coming out there, I'm trying to figure out, all right, this is a tool that's going to be out there. How do I use it to take advantage? How do I take advantage of it and use it in a way that can like reduce the time it takes me to do things? I'll give you an example. Is with our customers, one of the very first things we do to help them become visible or findable is making sure they're getting found by the right keywords. Well, it turns out I can use Chat GPT to go in, and I'm sure I can use other tools like this, but go in and put like my top 5 keywords and tell the tool to go find me 50 other keywords that are related, and it'll come back in seconds with that answer. So I don't have to think about them. I can just then get rid of the ones that's like, nah, not that one. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. And I can do that a couple of times. Well, in a matter of minutes, I can use that tool to do what might have taken me an hour or more before. So I'm taking the time to learn a tool. And that's my tip for those of you who show up early and on time is make sure you're mastering the tools of trade. Today's tool of the trade is FPDS. Okay, that was just a quick thank you tip for the people who show up early. We bring the energy, whether it's afternoon energy like me or whether we're bringing morning energy from the west, the central part of the states, the West Coast, or out there in the Pacific. All of us are bringing energy, but it's just my way of giving a thank you for showing up early. Okay, so let's get into the training. We're going to be doing a deep dive. In today's training, I want to talk about how to find women-owned small business set-asides in FPDS. The reason, by the way, I'm focusing on women-owned small businesses today is we're in March. We're coming into the last 2 days of March, and we're celebrating Women History Month by focusing on women-owned small businesses. The reality is any of the tips I'm providing, even though they're focused today on women-owned small businesses, it's still a skill set and a process that any of us can follow for whether we're a woman-owned small business or not. In this training, I'm going to show you how to find opportunities. I'm actually going to show you how I do it on a daily basis, including this morning, right? How I go and follow this skill set or this process I'm about to show you to find set-aside opportunities or potential women-owned small business set-aside opportunities. There are many ways that you can find opportunities out there that can fit into your pipeline. Today, I'm just showing you one, right? I'm going to be showing you one that's based on using FPDS's data, which shows previously awarded contracts. And I'll show you a little bit more about that if you're newer to this. One of the reasons I like going into FPDS and using that data or those opportunities as a way to move forward is that when I find opportunities that I like and I know they're going to expire, typically those are going to get funded, right? They'll get funded generally for the next opportunity because they've already been funded previously. And that's different, right? It's a lot easier to find information on opportunities that have already been awarded than, hey, this is a new requirement coming out. We're thinking about going this direction. Although that's attractive, it's pretty hard to find things. And so today I'm going to be focusing on expiring opportunities as we go forward. And today it's a lot more of a deep dive into FPDS. It's one of my first times actually trying to show you how I use the tools. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm excited to have you here for our federal sales training where I teach tips for success in the federal market. By the way, one tip I'll give you right now, since I just saw David Waltz on here in the chat. He is one of the small business professionals in the Navy. And just, I think this morning, it might've been, I just noticed it this morning, but he just let us know that, hey, all of our Industry Day slides are out there and available. And so definitely connect with David and learn from him if you have any interest in the Navy, in particular, his Warfare Center over at Keyport. David, by the way, I downloaded them all. Hunter Martin let me know about them as well. And I'm going to put them over into the LinkedIn Navy DIB group that's out there. Just an FYI. So I spent 20 years, by the way, as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. In fact, what I'm going to teach you today, looking into FPDS to find expiring contracts, that's a process. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn or YouTube, go ahead and do that, or subscribe on YouTube so that you keep hearing about more information that I share. I share all sorts of information, including today, I shared something from the National Security Agency, NSA, on their cybersecurity year in review. And it's fascinating seeing all the challenges and the things they're dealing with and what they see as a way forward for all federal agencies, the entire federal government. And so that was a post out there that I put today on LinkedIn. And last thing, before we get started, help buyers, help me, help others in the community. Remember who you are. Put your core competency, your company name into the chat. Let us know who you are by doing this every single time you show up to training. Okay, so before I share my screen, I just, from a very high level, in fact, maybe I will share my screen. I'll just talk from there. Wait 1 second. And by the way, if this is your first time with me, I talk at a fire hose. So the first thing I want to do is just say, what is FPDS? In case you're new to this, right? The Federal Procurement Data System, fundamentally, it's where all contracts that have been awarded are listed. There's some exceptions, but I'm not talking about those. So basically, most everything is here. Now it's over on SAM, and so that's the primary tool. But a lot of us, while we still have access to FPDS, we love this tool because it's easier. So I'm going to dive into FPDS, and I'm just going to look at my slides to remind me what I want to chat about. Okay, so the first thing I want to share with you is, and I'm not going to dive too much into all aspects. And so I did say there's training here and help. Go look at that and you'll learn how to use the tool. But for this, I'm just going to come in, and we're celebrating Women's History Month, so I'll type in that. And I'm just showing up in FPDS. And the first thing I want to do is I just want to show you what I think is important within FPDS and some of the data. And the reason I'm going to show you is because then it will inform the filtering I put onto the data. So without any particular search, I'm just going to go into the top item here, the most recent one. And I want to point out the things that I find that are valuable. And some of them I'm going to use in the search criteria. So the first thing that I love that's valuable is right here is Melanie. In FPDS, you can come in and get the name of somebody on the acquisition side. A lot of times it's a contracting officer or specialist, but it's somebody who's tied to this opportunity. So as I'm coming down, a couple of key fields I want to get to. The first one here is I'm just looking at the dates. One of the things I'm looking at today's training is when's the contract expiring? Now, these contracts are misleading as you go forward because it might be an option year and it's only filtering it in. So you got to dig more into it. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I want to know about this field here, so the completion date. The other thing I care about is the action obligation. When I'm doing searches, I could care less about anything below $1 million at the moment. You might want to look at that, but for my example today, I want it to be higher. So I'm going to type in action obligation. I'm going to use that as a filter. And it just basically means how much is the contract. The next thing is, depending on what agency you're trying to go after. For example, I've got customers that are trying to go after DHS, Defense Health Administration, Navy, obviously, the U.S. Air Force. So I would filter down on those. And here is where I'll be able to do that. And I can look. The part I'm really looking for is in the funding agency area. And we can talk another time. I did a whole training about the difference between these. But funding is what I'm really looking for initially in this training. Okay, so the next thing I want to show is right here. And this is actually, it's funny. I did a bad example there. Hold on. Let me get a better one. Because that was Leidos, and they don't have enough information for me to show. Let me see if I can find just a small business that pops up. This one might be small. I don't know if it is or it's not, but let's go ahead and check. So if I come down here, perfect. So you can see here, the next part that I want to show you is that's important is it's telling me information about this business. I want to talk to you about how do you find opportunities that are set aside for women-owned small businesses, or that could be. Part of capture is convincing the government to set something aside. And so here, what I want to search on is socioeconomic data, and I'll show you that field in a minute. So keep that one in mind as we go forward. And then the last one that really pops, and there's a lot of good information, but the last one that really pops for me is as I come down, I'm looking right here for the type of set aside. So I'm going to show you two different things. If it was already set aside to woman-owned small businesses, that was great. But if it was awarded to a woman-owned small business, that's also good, because then I could just go in and say, hey, government, you already awarded it to a woman-owned small business and they did a great job. Why don't you now set it aside to a woman-owned small business? So that's why I would look for opportunities that are there. So really, that's the last thing I'm looking for. There's all sorts of other great information, but I'll run out of room today. So let me come back, just walking through my bullets here. So let me show you how I filter down. So I'm going to go back to a clean screen. When you come into FPDS and you're using their filter, over here on the right-hand side is this advanced search. I'm going to click on the button, and it's going to allow me to build a search criteria that I'm looking for. And what I want to do is to work this slowly with you. So I'm going to, instead of building all the filters, I want to build them one at a time. So I show you kind of working their way down. So I'm going to say, build me a new search here. Click add. And the first thing I'm going to do is that set aside. So where was that little guy? Type of set aside. And if you remember looking at it, it didn't say WOSB. It said, it spelled it out, not the acronym. And so here I'm just going to type woman, plural, not singular. And when I do, now I got 49,000 set asides that are in FPDS at the moment, right? Just using the data it's presented. So now I want to keep filtering down. The next thing I want to do is, that's too many, and I want to just filter it over opportunities that are going to be expiring in the, let's say, the next year. So I'm going to leave it within the same results, not a new search, and I'm going to add a new filter. And here, I want to sit there and go to that field that is the contract end date, which I already forgot. There it is. Estimated completion date. And you can use this calendar item, but let me just teach you. The way you do it is you do 2 characters for each thing. So month, day, and then year, 4 for this. So I'm going to say anything that's expiring in August. Anything expiring before August, I just don't have enough time to compete for. But if I look at anything expiring in August, there's a good chance that in July and June, they're competing for it, unless it's really big and then it started much earlier. And so then I'm going to say, let's go out 1 year. And I'm just looking at building my pipeline of opportunities I can pursue. So if you look here, I just set the estimated completion date. We're going from 49,000 opportunities to now 2,400 opportunities, right? So over on the right-hand side, hopefully you can see that, but it says type of set aside, women, and this is in the search criteria, estimated completion date. Now I want to refine it more. By the way, I have a problem sometimes with FPDS where it just like gets rid of my search criteria. So what I'm going to do is occasionally just keep saving it. So I got it in a WordPad document. So let's go ahead and modify this search some more as we start going down into the opportunities. So I already said women-owned, set aside, estimated completion. The next thing I want to do is I want to only go after opportunities that really are decent size. So if I look at the obligation, I'm going to say $1 million. Let's just start with that. Up to like 100 million. 100 million is way too big, but I'd rather just see what's out there. So now over the next year, I see that there's 169 opportunities that are on any type of work, construction, IT, whatever. So 169 that theoretically are expiring in the next year. And as I begin to look at them, I just keep filtering down. So remember, I said I do have some agency folks I'm trying to pay attention to. So before I go any farther, I'm just going to put my search there. So I never lose it. I don't have to keep retyping it. So now you see me, I'm working it down. I'm building this filter down. And the next thing I want to do is to pick the agency I'm going after. So let's just talk about Navy, since David Waltz is on. So I'm going to edit this and let's see, David, if anything comes up. So I am looking for, well, actually, I don't even have to go over here. This one instead, let me just show you over on the right. I can just filter it by clicking on this. And so I'm seeing if Navy's out here. It's not, I don't really see it. So I'm going to hit on DOD, and then theoretically, now I should see Navy. This is funny. I'm not sure if this is exactly the way it is. And David, I'd be curious if you got something in there. And Gus, if you see him type something, let me know. But basically, through the search that I just did, right? Women-owned small business set aside, expiring in the next 12 months, over $1 million in the Navy, and there's one opportunity. This to me is just a little unusual, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. I saved my search because I'm going to click in here on the view, and down here I'm just going to go look at what type of work this is. And so if I come down here, the first place I like to go is just to the description. So I can just see it's some sort of workload acceptance. I don't know what that is, but up here I can see it's program management type work, right? Business support services. It's worth looking at, but it's there. But this is not even remotely the amount that I'm looking for. I should be able to see a lot more. So I'm just going to put my search back in for a second. So we're at 1. I'm going to get rid of the Navy here for a second. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put the Navy just so you see this, and I'm going to get rid of the action obligation. So I just got rid of the dollar size, and I said, now show me anything in the Navy, but not $1 million. Show me maybe by up to $1 million, which is not unusual. So maybe this is, a $4 million or a $3.5 million contract might be under $1 million a year for 5 years. And so if I just sort on the size now, I can see there's that one contract, but I missed out on all these almost 1 millions. And in here, I can begin to look at these opportunities and whittle them down. I'm not going to whittle them down except for once to show you in here. But the reality is you can then sort it by or filter it down by NAICS code. You can filter it down by keyword. I don't particularly like filtering down too much because I'd rather look at every one of these 94 opportunities, just browsing through and seeing what's there. It doesn't take me a lot of time, but then I never miss something that might have been missed. The data might have been entered in poorly. And so let me just try one thing here, and I'm just going to type in the word SharePoint up at the top. If you can see in the filter, I'm just saying, hey, are there any SharePoint opportunities? And they're not. And so now I'm going to back away from the Navy and see if there's any in the defense. No. Okay, so one thing about FPDS, I should have seen something with SharePoint right now. I don't, which is an unusual thing, and it makes me feel like FPDS got a little screwed up there. So let me just try it this way. Where I come in and I try SharePoint, and I'm going to advance this filter on women-owned small businesses. And remember, you can do this with SDVO or HubZone or whatever. So I'm going to come down and see if I can do type of set aside women. And so there's 9, and I can see just there none of the 9 are in DOD. And then if I actually did it by date, I'd find that it looks like women-owned small businesses aren't getting any love as it relates to SharePoint. So there's 2020, 23. Actually, there's some. So they're pretty recent. So this is perfect, right? I look right here and I can see $146,000 opportunity. So that means it's probably almost $1 million. This $2 million opportunity, right? That could be a $10 million opportunity out there. So I'm walking through the filter. I want to show you how I walk through the filter one other way. Hold on one second. Let me just come back to my deck here. So I want to do one more search where I show you women-owned small business set-asides. So I've got companies that do cybersecurity. I'm going to come in here and say I'm looking for women-owned small business potential set-asides for cybersecurity. So the first thing I do is I put my keyword in. The next thing I'm going to do is refine the results that I have. So putting more filters on. And remember some of these, but before I used woman-owned set-aside, what I'm really looking for now, and let me do some of these fields really quick. So 8/1/2023. You would think I could type better. Until next year, 8/1/2024. And then let me add another filter in here. And the action obligation is what I wanted because, again, I just want to start high. This one here. I don't know how much I just went up to. Let's go another one. So if I do this right now, so now really, let me get rid of that action obligation. Well, that doesn't make it. I must have screwed something up there. Sorry. Let me try this result again. Just doing it slow. So 1 million to 100 million, and I'm going to filter it one at a time this time. Now I'm going to say in the time period. So I'm going to say date signed. And here, August 1st, 2023 to August 1st, 2024. Did I do that right? Yeah. Wow. That's a really interesting thing for me, is that I'm not finding anything, and I'm doing something wrong in the search. So I'm going to come back and get rid of that for 1 second. Sometimes, by the way, this isn't you. It's the search results that's happening from the filter that's going on. But let me see if I can find any that are woman-owned small business that won this contract. That was really what I was trying to say. So before I did the set-asides, now I'm doing the socioeconomic indicator. And so in here, it wasn't previously set aside to women-owned small businesses, but it was won by a woman-owned small business. That's what I'm looking for, is cybersecurity that was won by women-owned small businesses. And before I filter, I'm just going to sort it. So I can see that there's women small businesses or women businesses in there. So let's go ahead and grab that. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to click into this one. And I want to go down and look at it. Okay, so right here, what it's telling me is that it's not a small business, it's a big business. So it's a woman-owned business, right? So this contract was awarded to a woman business. I don't care that it was large at the moment, but it was only for 3.7 million. Even if this is a 5-year contract, right? This might be a task order, part of a bigger contract. Even if it was, it's still only 15 million or so, 16 million. That can go to a small business. That can go to a woman-owned small business. This is an example of an opportunity, and I might end here so I can show you some other activities. So here it is, an option, right? It's showing you that it's an option, but the period of performance is the original period performance, probably 5 years, right? Let's assume that. So it's a 15 or $16 million contract that was done not by a large firm, even though it was done by a woman-owned small business. And so I would be going to the contracting officer, trying to talk to them about potentially making this a woman-owned small business set-aside contract going forward. And so let me just pause here for 1 second, and I'm going to stop sharing. And I just want to come back here so I can see a little bit of the chat. So the idea of looking at an opportunity, like I just said, what can you do with it? This is the last thing I want to show you, because I showed you a bunch of filtering things, and I'm happy to actually send, if anybody asks me, some of my filtering tips, like go in here and pull this field. I'm happy to put that together, and I might even just share it on LinkedIn tomorrow as a tip. But what do you do once you find an opportunity like that $15 million one I just looked at? It was a larger business had won it, but it went to a woman-owned small business. To me, if I was in a woman-owned small business, I would think I could go in and try to start driving it toward a woman-owned set-aside. And so here are 4 steps that I want you to think about. How do you pursue that opportunity to start shaping it? When we talk about capture in federal sales, capture is about shaping the technical requirements and the acquisition approach. And the shaping the acquisition approach is really about having the conversation with the contracting officer and seeing what they're willing to do. But you need to make recommendations to them. So the first thing I would do on that opportunity is I would go look for it I would go look for the SAL, the statement of work, or the performance work statement. And I'm just trying to see where it was awarded. I don't see it awarded on a particular contract vehicle. And so it might be wide open. But what I'd be looking for is that statement of work that can tell me about what was the work. I know it said cybersecurity, but what were the task areas? Do the task areas align to what I want to do? And if they do, once I have that PWS, now I have a lot more information about what the future opportunity could be like, because I'm looking at the current opportunity. And so when you have that PWS or the SAL, the second thing you want to do is to build what I call a targeted list. And so if you go into our 7-step process, and you've seen me talk about the 7-step process before, where research, targeting, outreach, lead to relationships, opportunities, proposals, and sales. Well, targeting is about identifying who do you call before you reach out. And so build a target list around that opportunity. I would be looking for the contracting officer. I would be going into SAM, and inside of SAM trying to find this opportunity at the bottom, seeing if there's 2 or 3 people listed that are the contract specialist, small business specialist, contracting officer, whoever, about that previous opportunity. They're on my target list. I would go into LinkedIn, and I would, using the PWS, I could see which program office this is for. And I might try to find people on LinkedIn that are in there. I might, because I know the incumbent, I might build a list of people to reach out to at the incumbent. Hey, are you guys going after this again? I hear it's going to be small business set aside. Are you open to teaming? Any of that kind of stuff, look into the incumbent. So you're building a target list. That's the second thing you want to do. The third thing you want to do is to research that incumbent, right? You're going to be finding their information before you call them, and before you talk to the government about the opportunity. Research the incumbent, learn obviously their name, learn a little bit about their spending on this particular contract, but then find out, where are they winning? Are they completely in this agency, or are they just one contract here and they're mostly somewhere else? Think about, where are they winning and what are they winning? Do they typically win this type of work, or is it like a one-off? My last company, we were a SharePoint company, but we won a huge enterprise architecture contract because of the sales that we did. And if you had looked, that would have been an anomaly. If you had looked at all our other opportunities or awards, they're all basically SharePoint, and that one was enterprise architecture. That's a good one to reach out with and say, hey, maybe we can help you with the EA while you guys do SharePoint. And that's why you want to research the incumbent and understand how they're winning, where they're winning, et cetera, and what they're winning, obviously. And then the fourth thing, the final thing on the initial activity of pursuing an opportunity that you might find in FPDS is to reach out to that target list. Pick up the phone and start calling, asking questions. The contracting officer, you could start with just asking them, where is this will this be recompeted? Generally you can look and decide if it's going to be on your own, but you want to get confirmation. When will that recompete process start? When's the acquisition process going to start for the recompete? How does that typically work? 6 months out, 2 years out? And asking some of those questions, finding out who the core is, maybe the program manager, the small business specialist, obviously having an advocate. But you begin to reach out, and as you're reaching out, you're trying to have conversations that will lead them to setting this aside to women-owned small business. The whole point of today's training was to show you how you can look into FPDS, find opportunities that were set aside to women-owned small businesses, and then begin to pursue those ones that are in your sweet spot, pursue those to see if the government would be open to them being set aside and getting on their radar and saying, I really would like to compete. So if you do that, you'll begin to identify more and more opportunities that really are good fits for your pipeline. Hey, and what I just taught you, by the way, it's really fast. It's a fire hose, a lot of stuff in there, but it's exactly how not just what I teach my customers, but how I help my customers in our BD Accelerator workshop. We start off by making sure that they're visible and attractive to the federal buyers and teammates, right? And then helping them implement a strategic marketing campaign, which fundamentally is that targeting thing I just described. And then finally, following a process to build strategic relationships within federal buyers and teammates. And this FPDS skill that I taught you today, you can use this as you do targeting on different opportunities, and you're reaching out to buyers or teammates, or even learning more about the incumbent, right? You can reach out to these people and build those relationships so they lead to opportunities that are slam dunk for your sales pipeline. So hopefully you found that skill helpful. I am going to put that one pager out that I talked about. So if you want to see that, let me know and I'll try to proactively send it to you. Otherwise, just watch LinkedIn. And remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.